Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital, and welcome to Idle Game Chat. This is the second part of my conversation with Logan. As I mentioned in last week's episode, we ran very long, so decided to split this up into two. On this edition, we focus primarily on hands-on impressions for Halo Infinite, Battlefield 2042, and we even chat about the landscape of reviews, streaming, content, all that good stuff as well. So sit back and relax and enjoy.
Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Well, let's finish up on some first-person shooter news and impressions. We had you on a few weeks ago, as people know, to talk about Halo, Battlefield, Call of Duty Vanguard. At that point, you'd only had hands-on on Vanguard only, and it appeared to punish it. It was dropped from one of the most anticipated titles to the bottom of the three, and I think we settled on Battlefield first, Halo second, Vanguard third. You've now had a chance to at least play Halo Infinite and Battlefield 2042, although experiences are completely varied, as we'll get to. But let's start with Infinite, because I feel like there's less to be said about that. There was an in-flight test, and essentially, if my understanding is, they only opened the PvP player versus player elements up at silly o'clock hours for UK people, and thus you were not forced, but being sensible, could only really play against bots.
Yeah, I mean the times that I was probably good to play, yeah, it didn't really work. So I think there was a morning. They weren't that horrific, I guess, because I think the evening slot where I think it was Pacific Standard Time worked out for the morning slot over here, and then the evening slot over there worked out. So it's vice versa. So whenever it was the morning slot in America, it was the evening slot here.
Yeah.
So it worked out okay, but it wasn't ideal times for me to get on. No. Which is a bit disappointing.
Is that because, parent now, appointment gaming isn't really a thing for you? Like, people come to you and say you can only play our game during these hours. You're like, well, I can't. It's as simple as that.
Basically. Yeah, I'm either working or parenting.
Yeah.
Like it's not ideal. So then obviously a weekend you go, well, I'm parenting or parenting. It's difficult to get
this
or whining. Yeah, I mean, and I get a 2-hour slot at the minute over lunch, but then at lunchtime it wasn't on, so I couldn't do it. So I thought I still want to sort of get a bit of a feel for it. So they let you play against bots, and obviously, you can only get.
I heard you got beat quite badly by the bots. That's what I'm told.
I was just messing around with it, to be honest. I didn't even really bother putting them on a huge amount of difficulty. I was like, just give me unlimited ammo.
Yeah.
Let me play around with the weapons, the gunplay, see what everything does, and yeah, I mean, it sort of get a bit of a feel for the maps, and some of the maps are good. I do like some of the maps. They're pretty cool. It's the thing with Halo. It's kind of all very close quarters. You die, you're straight back into it, relatively quickly. It felt solid. It felt like Halo. It didn't feel, from memory, like a huge step from what Halo 5 was like online.
I felt like that's interesting, because when you first said that, I was like, he's talking shit. But then I remembered that Halo 5 had quite a lot of changes that Halo hadn't had before. Like, it had sprint. You could clamber up on things. I know this has got the grappling hook, which offers, completely different things to be getting on with. But I feel like you're right in saying that if you compare it directly to Halo 5, the pace is already quickened by that point. Once Halo 5 came out, the pace had quickened. Historically, you go out to 3, which is probably the pinnacle for us in terms of Halo's time. Much slower paced. That you can even aim down sights. Now, that's, all those barriers have already been pushed out through 4 and 5. This is now a refinement of what they were trying to get to, perhaps. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, it felt like it was a step forward. I mean, you still got the classic kind of hip fire, left and right, dodging kind of mechanics, it still feels like Halo. But yeah, it's, it felt very much more close quarters. You've obviously got um, you've got the battle rifles and things like that, which it feels silly, to be honest. It feels almost borderline broken in terms of how much more powerful that is against.
Oh, really? So if you pick that up, you're laughing.
Yeah, it feels like it. I can't remember the actual name of the gun, but they've got this like spear gun that I don't ever remember playing with before, which literally, it's like a rocket launcher, but it's got a spear on the end that just impales people in one if you hit them.
Oh.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. So, yeah, but it feels, in no bad way, it feels like a Halo. Well, it feels a lot like Halo 5 to me. Got some cool weapons and things, and yeah, I think people are going to enjoy it. And I think, as I said to you, I was less fussed about making a specific effort to try and get on at one of those specific times because it's coming out free to play anyway.
There's no
so
financial
it's kind of like,
risk attached to this. You're going to be playing that multiplayer for free anyway. Even if you're not a member of Game Pass, you're getting that. Even if you're not a member of Xbox Gold, you're getting that. It's just free for any old cunt to go and get.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I did also watch some streamers playing it in their PST slots.
Yes.
So Dr. Disrespect, Tim the Tapman, and a couple of others.
OTAPs.
They were doing it. Forget them. They were doing it, and I didn't feel like I was getting a hugely different experience by playing the bots, if that makes sense. So it was the same maps, it was the same sort of thing. So I was like, I'm kind of okay with just giving this a go here.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it felt okay. Yeah, I had no. I think some of the guys, when whilst watching the stream, they were mentioning on some of the maps their frame rate dropped.
Yeah.
So there's still some issues that it looks like they need to iron out on it.
Tell you what, I saw the complete outsider's view. I just saw mass excitement and sharing of clips less than a minute showing like cool moments in the game. Like someone would be running towards to get a power weapon, they see like the enemy and they're just grappling hook towards it, and like there was all this crazy stuff happening and it looked like good fun, but I don't remember too many games getting, or at least on my feed I should say, having that level of excitement and those moments that just look like fun. And it's obviously difficult with bots and whatnot, and you said you've watched a few streams and whatnot. Is it just that my feed was populated with that for reasons that are because I'm following X people, or do you feel like actually this game has potential to offer just those crazy moments where you're like, fucking hell, I can't believe it just happened. Like I saw capture the flag stuff going on, I was like, that looks like mad shit fun. I
hope so. I think the problem is battle royales changed the landscape in terms of playability of multiplayers, and I mean that because people used to stream and play multiplayers all day long, and arguably you get the same or a similar outcome.
Yeah,
and the feedback from a lot of the people that played it was like, yeah, I'll play it for a bit when it's out, but I probably don't see myself playing it long term. Was the feel for it, because it gets boring and samey. Like I think you have to be a certain type of person to want to keep doing that now that battle royales are more mainstream way of playing it.
Yeah.
But I think the added mechanic of the grappling hook should give some good moments.
Oh yeah.
And I still feel like there's always going to be a hardcore set of people that will just love Halo. I would like to see it become kind of a big game. Does that make sense? I mean, it obviously is a big game,
no,
but
I know what you mean,
a hugely popular one long term, rather than a sort of initial, Halo's out.
Thing is,
3 weeks, month, and
then
dies off.
I think what's happened here, I don't know if this is fair or not, but you say Halo 5 to people and they go, fuck me, that was shit. That's what they say. They're like, they bastardized the franchise. They did this, they did that. It wasn't very good. You look at the score, and I've just gone on to OpenCritic. Like, it's an 84. Pretty good. Like this year, that's in the upper half of like good games. And I know people have expectation that Halo is going to be a 90 or whatnot, but I feel like the campaign dragged that fucker down so badly in like the conversation. Whereas the multiplayer stuff, like you're saying, they made all these changes that to evolve the gameplay, like aiming down sights, sprinting, clambering on fucking edges, getting a hand on it. Like they did all that stuff, and yes, they done that rec system where I think you could pay to win, not quite, but you could pay to like get better drops and whatnot, which was a bit dodge and whatnot. But generally, when you talk to a human being about Halo, they'll always say the campaign was so bad. Chris, it was so bad. That's what they'll say, and they're right. Yeah. But that's got nothing to do with the multiplayer part of it. Yeah. And in this case, Infinite's going to be segregated quite significantly because multiplayer is free.
Maybe that's part of the reason they've done it.
You ain't even got to be worrying about the campaign, really. The conversation shouldn't be dragged over. I still think there'll be a civil war because there is an audience that plays Halo for the campaigns and plays a bit of multiplayer, and on the other side, there's a lot of people that play it for the multiplayer side of things. But like,
there are some games where people expect top tier from both.
It's too much.
If you take Call of Duty as an example, no one will ever slander that for its campaign being shit. Like, it's always there, but no one ever goes, Call of Duty Vanguard, oh yeah, the campaign on that game was really bad. Whereas you get Gears of War, for example, that's both. It's got to have a good online experience and a good multiplayer experience. And a good single player experience. It can't. People are invested in both of those, and I think Halo's the same franchise in that it's invested in both. Yeah. If one isn't at a level, then it gets knocked down for it, and I think it's just unfortunate, really, that to a certain extent that you basically judge games by their highs.
Yeah,
right? And Call of Duty's never been. You could argue the Modern Warfare campaign, and there was some good moments in that.
When they dropped zombies mode in the first time, I remember just being like, "This is great for World of War." But that is interesting. Yeah, that absolutely happens because then we was talking about the differences between Microsoft and Sony earlier. Sony's big hitters: God of War, Spider-Man, Uncharted, The Last of Us, Days Gone. It wasn't a big hitter, but it's one of the big games. They're all single player. They don't even. Most of them don't even give you the chance to play multiplayer, so they don't have to deal with any of that conversation. They just it's a single player game. How good a single player game is it? Isn't all the critics go, yeah, fucking 90s, and they're like, they walk away from it.
Okay, this is easy. This lot.
Yeah, Halo is in a very tricky position where it's had great campaigns throughout, and then is expected to produce on the multiplayer front. And what's happened is the multiplayer front, I feel like, has always been decent. I know the Master Chief Collection was a disaster in terms of matchmaking and working. I couldn't get it to work ever. But then if one part of it's not very good, it gets absolutely crapped on. And I think, I hope that Infinite is an opportunity for them to evolve beyond that. In the same way that Battlefield have gone, look, we ain't even doing campaigns. We just aren't dealing with it. We're not going to spend time and money doing it. We know the hardcore players and most of the people that play this is here for the multiplayer.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that Halo, in separating it like this, Infinite multiplayer at least can just be looked at upon its own like platform, and you're like, yeah, what a great, hopefully a great multiplayer experience it is. And then dregs like me that play a lot of single player stuff will moan and go, fucking campaign, 45 quid, it's on Game Pass. But I think these days it's unrealistic to expect a game to be fighting on both fronts. There's just so few of them out there. It's interesting,
isn't it?
There's very few out there that can do it.
It's very hard. And most... I'm surprised, to be honest with you, that Call of Duty is still continuing to churn out campaigns. I really am. I think...
That's why I always respect Call of Duty, because it's always got a campaign, it's always got multiplayer, and it's always got zombies?
Not always,
Mostly.
But I'm pretty sure Vanguard's going to have them as well. So,
and it's got some sort of Warzone component to it as well. So now they've got four fronts to fuck around with. Like, I'll never say Call of Duty's not worth the money if you enjoy that loot, because that's a hell of a lot of different audiences to be fighting at.
Yeah. And I think I don't know whether it's the case, but I think generally speaking as well now, they used to charge for map pack updates,
Yes.
and they chuck them out free. So they and they're always updating all the online playlists and things. So in terms of actual content there and variety, you can't knock them. Whether you actually enjoy the game or the mechanics or not is another thing. But yeah, I think it is difficult for them, and it's I am surprised that they continue to do it. Because getting onto probably what we need to get onto, which is Battlefield, they've decided to go down that route. I mean, Battlefield was never one that people bought for campaigns. I can't remember anyone ever playing a Battlefield campaign. Ever since I've known it, it's been huge online games.
But we talk about earlier on, like our spending habits, and that kind of plays into what how much do we value games for. Like, there's definitely a shift happening. Like, Battlefield's going to be the same price it was 5 years ago, and it's not going to have a component for people that want to play single player.
Yeah.
Yet, I mean, we don't know how it's going to perform. It might be a disaster, but they're going full in just multiplayer only, like Titanfall did. That was multiplayer only. That kind of, for me, was like one of the first ones, and people were like, "Oh, it's a fucking beta. It ain't got a campaign." And to be fair, Respawn done this Titanfall 2 and done a great single player campaign. So I was like, "Cool." Maybe they should have done
We
one.
can do it. We just chose not to because there was about 5 of us at the time.
Yeah, exactly. But Battlefield maybe have made the right decision just from a resource perspective, but will they just lose people that just, I don't know who these people are, but they just played it for the 6 hours and binned it? Or do people just know that Battlefield's a multiplayer game and that's what you're playing it for? Like, games are becoming more and more, not niche, because these aren't niche markets, they're huge, but they're becoming more focused, I should say.
That's what I was going to get to, yeah. Some games, I guess, still straddle both well, but you'd probably argue in a time when money is more important than ever and allocating resources, more important than ever. You look at someone like Battlefield and they've gone, where's our audience? The majority of these are here for this multiplayer, massive online game experience. So they've gone, right, okay, we'll give you 128 players on a map then.
Yeah. That's what we can do.
We'll focus on making this as good as we can, as appealing as we can, rather than split our time between the two. And you've got to say, it is making it interesting to see how these companies and these studios are re-diverting and reinventing their games to try and, be the top of the pack. If you know what I mean, or to try and find the next Warzone, to try and find the next Fortnite, sort of to try and be that big game that explodes on the scene.
That's the elephant in the room, isn't it? Warzone and Fortnite, free to play. Like,
well, this is the thing.
Imagine, like, Xbox One, PS4 era, that was almost like if something was free to play, you was like, oh,
yeah.
What are they doing with that? As Fortnite came in, it changed people. Now we've got Warzone, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe EA will do Ultimate Team free to play. I mean, I don't see why they're not. Like, there's money to be had there. Like, you remove the barriers. We've got Halo Infinite and whatnot. But you're right. Like, free to play has had a huge impact on that.
Well, the model changed, didn't it?
Yeah.
The model changed from just getting your 40 quid, your £45 for the game and a couple of bits of DLC a year. And hopefully you can release some cosmetics that get a bit of money, to actually going, well, everyone loves the cosmetics, so let's just give them a shitload of cosmetics and just keep reinventing that. And people have just chucked money at it, and it's obviously a more lucrative way of paying for the game than it is by just saying here's an entry fee, basically. And it's one of those things that you look at in hindsight and you go, well, obviously this is a win-win for everyone. It's kind of like, if you want all these funky looking stuff, then you can give us a bit of money for it. But if you don't, play our game, enjoy it. And chances are they know that 98% of people, whatever, over the lifetime of playing the game, will put some money into it. So, yeah, interesting, I think. very interesting.
Yeah, and like Halo Infinite, I think's extremely interesting that they're just
Yeah.
separating it. They're saying that the multiplayer is free.
Mm.
Free. You don't even need to fucking have Game Pass, Xbox. You don't need the campaign. You don't need to bother about what Master Chief's next step is. You can just play the multiplayer free. And the further they can deviate away from that, I think the better off they'll be long term. And maybe you just have Halo 5 the story game, and it's like then people like me know what to target for. I don't need to sit there getting excited about Halo Infinite's 2.0 release because it's all going to be multiplayer focused. But when they come to me and say, look, we've got the Master Chief's expanded stories coming, maybe I'll look towards that. And then they're not expected to straddle the lines then. In the same way that God of War's not, in the same way that Spider-Man's not, in the same way that Last of Us is not, in the same way that Days Gone was not, in the same way that Ghost of Tsushima was not expected to straddle the multiplayer and single-player lines. We are getting less per purchase, but I feel like overall we're getting better quality in those focused markets. Like we're not... Things aren't getting spread thin across two because they haven't got to cater for one. They just go, right, bin it. Let's make this the best we can.
Prefer. It's what I,
Back for Blood, the single-player campaign. You're not going to play it. Like, imagine if they made that. You'd be like, what is that?
It's okay. I don't know. I think there's probably... I wonder if there's a bit of elitism in the development community where there's kind of something more prestigious in having one of these story games that everyone sort of fawns over rather than having one of these free to play, because Fortnite took so much criticism for their business model, for their approach, for everything.
Now everyone's copied it.
Now everyone's copied it, and it's like they were kind of the marked enemy in a lot of ways, and they just tore up the rule book, I think, and reinvented it. And now everyone's sort of gone, well, we could do that in some form with our game, and most games have. I mean, Rocket League's now completely different. Call of Duty's completely different because
Rocket League's free to play. It was free initially because it come with PlayStation Plus, and I remember us sitting there 5-6 years ago going, "This is the best PlayStation Plus ever." It was like, we're getting this game for free, and fast forward 5 years, Epic bought them and went, "Everyone can have it," because we know people like you are going to get that Tyrannosaurus Rex fucking sound and pay a couple of quid for it.
Yeah. And the thing is, I kind of...
Rockets.
I don't mind. It's a conscious thing for me, right? And it was the same with Fortnite. I don't mind giving a bit of my money to them for something that I'm playing a lot of and I enjoy. Like, to me...
Do you feel obligated to just give something back? Because,
I do, yeah. In a weird kind of way. Obviously, Rocket League, I haven't bought a huge amount on. I bought a little bit on Fortnite, not more than 40 quid's worth, I don't think. But that's where I draw the line. I go, if they're giving me this experience for nothing and they're putting all this content on here, why not give them a little bit back to say, like, thanks? That's kind of okay in my mind. It almost feels like I'm taking the piss if I play one of these games for nothing and don't give something if I've enjoyed it. Does that make sense? It feels a bit... It's like turning up at someone's house, them giving you dinner, you going, that's a really nice meal, and you haven't bought a bottle of wine, or...
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
You're supposed to do that, are you?
Allegedly so, yeah.
Well, not this Rioja, because I've drunk it.
Well, no. But yeah, it's a bit like that for me. So I don't normally mind. But I like the fact that they give everyone the choice, almost, to say, it's here if you want it. Do what you want. We don't.
It's fascinating that works. Because
it is.
Inherently, you think people are so selfish, they won't part of their money. And I know you get something in return. You get an object or a soundbite or a skin. But it's fascinating that the free-to-play games that are real successes, like, they make so much money. Just off of people that want to just have something and feel like they give back. I mean, Paper's in the chat now. He's saying it's similar to him with Guild Wars too. Like, he loves that game, so every time there's an expansion, he'll buy it. But then ultimately, if there's skins and whatnot, he feels like he wants to give back to them, so he'll buy a skin. Like,
yeah, but you've got to remember, there is also the part where they want all these big influential streamers and people playing their games. They want them. They give them the skins. They do all this stuff so that people see them on their favourite streamers' stream and go, I want that because he's got it or whatever it might be. So there is obviously a marketing element, and they do obviously want people to buy these and things.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that they're moving to this model rather than this hateful loot box model.
Randomised. You don't know what you're going to get.
Randomised. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as we move away from that, move forward to this model, I think it's a win-win for gamers in a lot of way.
Excellent. That's all I had to chat about this week.
We didn't touch on Battlefield, so do you want to do that quickly?
Oh! Battlefield 2042.
Yes.
Hands-on.
Hands-on experience. Yeah.
Here's what I've heard, and you tell me if it's wrong.
Yeah.
I've heard it's a bit rough around the edges. There's weird graphical glitches going on, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But overall, can be a fun game. If you like Battlefield, you'll be looked after, etc., etc. So let's start with the technical side of things. Good, bad, or indifferent?
It's buggy as fuck. At least that beta was. Yeah, it was buggy as fuck. I mean, there was graphical kind of glitches, sort of like.
You played it on Xbox.
Yeah.
Well, you should have played it on the new PS5 with the new power system put in it. That wouldn't.
Bloody weren't there. We weren't back for it, was it? Didn't have a choice.
It was in fucking Gerwin land. Of the Michael variety.
In Holland, yeah. But yeah, I played that on the Series X. Yeah, it was just, there's just so many bugs. Like, there'd be times when basically you're normally used to going these games, customizing your class before you land in there and then selecting it. Well, in this one, they turn the rulebook upside down. You kind of pick your class and specialist and then subclass. So I expected you to be able to pick a medic class, and she'd always be a medic, but she isn't. She's kind of locked to this special, if you like, and that's the only thing that's different. So you can be a medic, can't remember her name now, and you can pick a sniper loadout, but you'll still have your healing gun thing. So they've given that flexibility because I think people were a bit like, oh, but we don't want to be that and do this or whatever, So they mix that up. But then when you get in the game, you get the bog standard version of your rifle, and then you have to press a button and customize it in game as you're playing. It's a bit weird.
Sorry, do that again.
Right. So you get into you select your specialist.
I've done
select the subclass. So I'm sitting here with a sniper rifle. It's just a bog standard sniper rifle. It's got no sight on it. It's got no extended mags. It's got none of that stuff. You then hold, I think it was L1, and then it brings up this kind of like plus menu, and you have to press Y X amount of times to get to the site that you want.
What do you mean?
Yeah, it's so hard to explain.
Like, I'm not saying it's your fault for describing it wrong, but this sounds awful.
No. Yeah, so basically, you spawn in, you're standing there. Standing in spawn.
Yep.
Got your gun out.
Yep.
You then have to press L1, and then that brings up this menu. And then you'd have your sight on the up, basically on this like up first. So you've got like a circle in the middle, right, that's doing nothing. And then you've got sights on the top, mags on the right.
This is weapon mods of these.
Yeah, weapon mods on the right. You've got stocks.
But you can
on
surely
the bottom.
just set a loadout and have this every time.
No.
Sorry. So I've just sat there. I've just loaded the game in.
Yeah.
I've spent less than a minute probably. So I've put a silencer on. I've done a red sight dot. Whatever I've done. And I think, right, I'm done. I've run out, I've died, and I think, oh, fucking hell, that I told Logan to fucking cover me, and he hasn't from that snapping position. So I'm already annoyed, and I go, right, let's spawn back in. Let's use the same loadout. Let's go.
So that it does respawn you with your last.
But if you want to change it,
but then if you want to change it, or you change your specialist, you then spawn in again.
If you change your specialist, it moves it.
And then in the next game, when you select that specialist, it doesn't remember how you set it up, so you spawn again with So that was a bit. I was like, I don't understand why they've ripped up the rule book for this. It seems a bit back to front. But yeah, and there'd be times there's like a certain site that you can have on, which has got like a holographic site and then a red dot site, and you can press the thumbstick in to change between the two as you're aiming down sight. And there'd be times when it just wouldn't change. Like, you'd be pressing the button to change it and it wouldn't change. And yeah, it was just really glitchy. And like when you're going up ladders and stuff, you'd have a parachute on, Like, so rather than go
With
on.
the parachute, you jump off something.
Yeah.
Is it auto?
Yes.
So it won't let you splat.
If you then, I think it auto deploys, but then if
You
you
can
cut,
pull
you
it
can
away.
cut it off.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can splat yourself if you want to.
Interesting. I quite like that.
Yeah. Like it's fine, but yeah, it was just really, it's just
Buggy.
really buggy. There was just loads of random bugs as well. I think Pete got stuck in a vehicle,
Yeah, but he's a
couldn't get
bald
out of
mug.
it. I mean, he is.
He's
That's
the
what
OG bald mug, I should say. He's not the only bald
he is.
mug
Yeah.
in
No, he is the
society.
OG bull mug. But yeah,
22,
it
poor
was really
cunt.
buggy. But generally, I have to say, it was a lot of fun.
Okay.
It
Why?
was a lot of fun. Um, I think it's just the same thing that it always is with Battlefield, where you jump in with your mates and it's just carnage. Like we found ourselves hunkered down in this, in a building, with a chopper going over us, literally just pounding the shit out of the building. You've got people that are trying to get in, and there's people just squawking off everywhere, and it's just a bit of, it's just good fun with all the different play
Chaos.
styles, and it is chaos, but it's a good organized chaos. And then I'm going, right, okay, I'm gonna have to change my class up, make sure I've got an anti-aircraft gun. You sort of change it up a bit, and then you find that your team composition to a certain extent sorts out the scenario.
Yeah.
And as always, I love the sniping on Battlefield. It's something that's just super satisfying about it. I was going through some of my old clips that I'd saved down from Battlefield 1 that I'd taken.
Where did you save them? What console?
Xbox.
They kept them.
Yes. Yes. I was trying to send one through yesterday, but I didn't have enough signal when I was on holiday, so I couldn't send it through. I'd send it through after this.
That's a great thing about
Um,
Xbox is that I know people online, not real friends, but they had saves dating back to like 2012, and Phil would already upload them to the cloud, and then they now through Backcompat they can access them, and
yeah.
it brings their save forward.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, I like the way that there's some that are still. I had a FIFA 15 one on there as well that I had. Like, there's some pretty cool ones. It just keeps them there. It's not like Apple where they go, well, or Google Photos where they go, well, if you don't do something and pay some money, then you lose all this.
Yeah.
They kind of just keep it there for you and go, if you want it, it's there. We ain't doing anything with it. But yeah, Battlefield was good fun. It was and wasn't what I expected. I expected it to be more polished than it was. I'm surprised at how buggy it was, considering how undifferent a lot of it is, if that makes sense.
Is there not a symptom of it being? I don't know what the build was. Was it an alpha or beta? I can't believe
It's a beta.
Oh,
It was an open beta, yeah.
so it's second
And that's
stage.
the thing. Yeah.
And we've had a delay,
Mm.
so it's concerning.
It is. I was surprised at this point when it's coming out in not about 6 weeks, I think,
Yeah,
that it's still struggling with some like fundamental bits of turt that were going on in that multiplayer. And if that's what you're solely focusing on, you've got nothing else. How is that getting through some of the play tests? I don't know.
we've just sat there 20 minutes saying it's great that people are focusing on just the best things of the game, and then we got EA going, well, we tried, but we ain't focused on it enough.
It's just that I've never played. I can't remember a beta that I've played that was that rough.
Really?
Like, I've played beta, yeah. Like in terms of like glitches and graphical stuff, I was surprised at. Like normally when you play a beta, you come across like an unbalanced weapon or something that's just ridiculous or whatever. Like there'll be little things where you just put down to a beta balancing. Connection issues, things like that. But when you've got fundamental graphical glitches and game glitches, you can't aim properly down sights. It just seems odd that it's got through that to that point where there's people that are raising it. But pretty much the reception that I saw was pretty much. It's going to your point. It's going to be one of those games I think that has a lot of good clips. And there's a specific YouTuber that I follow that does a still. Yeah, that still does a lot of Modern Warfare and Call of Duty content,
Well.
and he said that he sees Battlefield as being one of those fun games that will produce lots of funny moments and sort of
Clips.
content for him and his clips for his videos. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
It's funny
Because he got. Go on. No, he got about 3 or 4 videos, I think, out the beta, with all different clips and things that they were trying to do and certain, funny moments and stuff. You think if you're just getting that out of a beta, what are they going to get once they figure out the full game?
It's funny because Old Paper was in the chat earlier, and whilst we was talking about Halo, and he said our game's forced to have clip moments that are sub 60 seconds that can be shared on social media. I don't think they're forced, but if you're a marketing man, if you're Alan sitting there at the very top of the tree and you've got some marketing scrub, you might say to little Tom and say, look, make sure there's some clip moments. Like, does that sort of stuff help in your view, that you can see, like, you know what it's like, you scroll through your timeline and you think, what's that clip? And it's 30, 40 seconds long and you're like, cool.
Yeah, but I think that's what I think most people play multiplayer games for those clip moments.
To teabag.
I think if you well, yeah, it's like one of these. How creative, and for a lot of the content creators, it becomes to how creative can I be in this game at killing people or doing something funny in this game. I mean, look at what Red versus Blue did, and with Halo and stuff like that. Like what the things that you can do and create content out of a game is a really important thing. And when I'm watching games, I'm looking at it thinking what fun things can I do with this? I don't want to just run around with an assault rifle just shooting people in the chest. Like it's not that is fun to a certain extent, but you want to do things outside of that which change it up. And I think doing some funny stuff, seeing bodies blast off a building, changing your weapon up, hitting people with certain different grenades and stuff, and I think that's become an important mechanic. And it's to your point, it's good for marketing, right? If people can't create content out of your game in this day and age, if people can't create content, that's a huge loss of revenue and marketing, free marketing for you that you're going to lose out on. And you want these people, these popular YouTubers and streamers playing your game.
I mean, you look at Among Us, how has that really got popular? Because people started streaming it, because people started playing it. It had been out for fucking 2 years. No cunt cared. And yet suddenly it got pulled into a circle of like streamers and whatnot, and then suddenly it was the thing, wasn't it? Over lockdown, it was. I mean,
yeah, it was. Yeah. We played it. Pretty much everyone. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a bit like Fall Guys, where it's like this massive high followed by this like massive dip. But there were still a lot of streamers that played Among Us. There probably still are some popular ones that still jump into it for some content. But I think that is a massive thing for games now. Look at how it affected Fortnite. Look how it's affected Warzone. And they're a massive voice in the community. You've got Dr. Disrespect that's out there almost every day slagging off Warzone for something that he doesn't like. And slowly they do change these things. When streamers vote with their feet and move away from games, you all of a sudden see them start going, oh, all right, yeah, we'll do this or we'll do that. Or they do something to it. It is a massive thing for them.
It's a different world.
Yeah. But
you've got to be cognizant of what's going on around you and the people, what people are saying, because look, there's people younger than us that are going to grow up and spend more money than us, and then ultimately, if they're getting their opinions or they're getting their direction off of a YouTuber, you'd be stupid as a corporate entity not to think probably need to invest some money in there and like, but you can't just say here's like, you will not get away with just paying them off. They will be as blunt as they need to be. So at the end of the day, it comes down to the product. Like
it's interesting.
If the product's a load of old shit, Dr. Disrespect, doesn't matter if they gave him 10 million, he's going to say that's dump.
Yeah, he would. Yeah,
and that's like, it's not this. People are like, well, they've been paid off. Of course they haven't.
Well, you say that it's interesting because when it was Wildcat that produces quite a lot of, or that's producing that Battlefield content, and he was in his first video that he did. There was something ridiculous that happened, and he criticised. And he went, "Oh, I could say that because this isn't a sponsored stream or sponsored content,
Right. So there was.
right?" So this is something, and everyone's always aware of it, right? When
Yeah.
it's a sponsored stream or when they're paid to play a game, they have to declare it, but they're naturally not going to go, "You've paid me X amount to play this game. This is shit. Review done." Like, because they're just cutting no one bites the hand that feeds, right? And that's the difficulty. Um, so yeah, another beauty is when these games are free to play,
Don't fucking matter, really, does it?
don't matter. Yeah.
Put your fucking. What about the old school game reviewers? They're like, look, it's a 9 out of 10 jobby. How do
I
they
don't.
fit? How do they fit in with the modern day streamer, where a Mr. Matty plays, who's like an Xbox player, doesn't even give it out of 10. He just says buy, wait for a sale, don't bother, jobby. And then you've got obviously IGN and like, yeah, it's an 8.0, 9.0. Like, where do they fit in? Because at the end of the day, they're one and the same. They're reporting on an opinion of a video game, and I know that some people feel like the YouTubers are. It's a bit of the Wild West. Like, you don't really know what money's being done. I like to think that IGN, GameSpot, the big guys out there aren't doing that, and there's never really been a scandal around that, other than maybe 30 years ago. Where do they fit in? Because do they even? I mean, other than our fantasy gaming league, where we take their scores as gospel because it defines whether you win or lose. Like, what influence do they have, and will that wane over the years?
I think it depends on. I don't know. It feels slightly old school versus new school, doesn't it? In a way.
It is, and it is.
And I know that you're quite old school in the way that you look at the reviews and stuff for those. You'd like those old school review mechanisms from the IGNs and whatnot. You like looking at those.
I like a score for the gaming league. That's it. I don't like people that don't put scores on them, because I think you're scared.
What are you scared of?
You're scared of putting a 10 out of 10 in case it ain't, because it probably
What would you
isn't.
prefer? Do you prefer a scale like that, or would you prefer a buy or I wouldn't bother?
And this is a cop out. Ultimately, it depends who's doing it. If it's someone I trust, I don't care what scale they do, as long as they can convey it to me in a way that I can understand and go right off the back of that. But to be fair, like, this is another thing. Like, there's very few occasions where I go into paying 40, 50, 60, so whatever the price is for a game, without knowing loads, without doing my own research and being like, will I enjoy this? Let's see what Dr. Disrespect says. He might have been my typical game. Let's just listen. Let's see what Easy Allies say. Let's see what Sifted say. Let's see what IGN is saying. And then let's look at Open Critic. Fuck me, it's at 91. Okay. But I'm not like... Before that's even happened, I will do as much research as I can.
Yes, you understand the challenges the developer might have had when they're doing it.
Well, look,
Are there any changes in storyline?
If I don't like a multiplayer only game, I'm not saying I don't, I'm just saying for an example, if I don't like multiplayer only games, I'm not likely to play a multiplayer only game. I'm not going to spend money on that.
Yeah.
Because I've just done my own research. Like, you have to just take it upon yourself and just have a little look.
There is an element of it where you can go, like, for example, Overwatch 2, when that eventually drops, right? I'm going to probably like that. I don't need to sit here and go, what's it all about? Who are the characters? I know what I'm getting from a sequel like that. And I guess that's part of it that comes into it. Obviously, you'd look at the studio that's developed it. Have they produced games that I liked before?
Yep.
All that sort of stuff comes into play. But I think, and one of the things I really like about streamers is that generally they're pretty impartial. Their revenue isn't based on reviews. They're not there, to review games. They're there to play games. And I think generally my gut feel is that they would generally be more honest. And that's not saying that reviewers aren't, but
well, you'll get
and
a
you can
less.
also-
You'll get a less. You just get a raw opinion. You won't
Yeah.
get. You won't get the
Yeah.
fluffy. Oh, the controls are a little bit awkward here. Like the YouTuber or the influencer will be like, it's shit. Like
Yeah.
they'll lay it down to you in a term that might make more sense to you, or at least compatibilise with yourself. Because
Yeah.
yeah,
I just think who was it? Ray Narvaez Jr., so Brown Man. He was playing a game that come out a little while ago on stream, and he got an hour through it and he went, "Oh, this ain't for me." He was like, "This is what you get." He was like, "You've seen what you get in." It's like, "I've played an hour of it. I can't play anymore," and just cut off. Then and he just played something else. But it's interesting to see them when they do pick up some games, especially variety streamers, because there will be some that they do and they don't like. I think generally,
But that's what I think is the ultimate key. You find out what they do and they don't like,
yeah,
and you will understand this over time. So basically, you find a game that you like, they didn't potentially. What's their opinion? Okay, didn't like that X, Y, and Z. So it's about finding the right people that
It is
suit your
difficult.
needs. And there's never
Yeah.
a like for like. There's never
No.
Ronnie's never going to find his fucking twin brother anywhere because he ain't, is he? We know that. We know that Ronnie Mark II don't exist. He's not out there.
It's just about relying on people that have
Generally giving you good advice.
yeah, basically, yeah. And it's like when you review films now and you go, not a Biff film. It's like you know
It's
him
not.
well enough to go
He ain't.
whether that person is going to enjoy that film or not.
He
and
takes
it's
it
the
as an
same.
insult. It's not. I'm just saying, don't waste your time, Biff. You're so uptight in your film criticism. You won't like this, innit?
Yeah, but it's interesting. I think bringing it back to your original question,
new
I
host.
think there's a place for both. There's a
Oh,
place
yeah.
for both.
Yeah, of course there is.
But the thing that I think gives the advantage for the streamers is that you're getting the real time opinions and you're seeing it for yourself. So they're sort of playing it through, saying, "Oh, I don't like that," or "That's a bit annoying," or this, that, and the other. Whilst you're also thinking, "Yeah, that would annoy me a bit," or I think, "Oh, that's you're making a mountain out of a molehill. That's not a problem." But it doesn't always work, right? Because you can't sit there. If I was watching someone play God of War, you're watching them play that game, so you think, well, now I'm going to have to go up there and play all of that, or at least the first 3 hours, and I've already seen all that, or whatever. So it doesn't always work, does it?
No, it's not. It's not. There's no easy way of doing it. It is what it is. People just have to have a go at it. Find the right people. Find those people that you trust, and and they'll let you down eventually. They will. They'll say, "Oh, this is great," and you'll play it and go, "That ain't great." And you've got to be,
didn't like it.
You've got to be prepared for that. It's just that sometimes that sort of stuff happens. That I'll tell you what. You just got to realise you're your own human.
There you go. Do your own research. Listen to some of the others you trust, and then go, "Do I want to take the plunge or not?" But if you've got Game Pass, most of the time it don't matter anyway.
Well, back down to that fucking shithouse. Phil laughing. Paper Pipe says, like buying tech today, we'll do our own research with the help of others. It's a mix. Reviews help, but I won't buy a TomTom if a Garmin is better for me personally. We'll listen to MMO reviews over COD reviews on the new world. I mean, he's right there. So basically, that last point, he's going to go to people that play MMOs. He's not going to go to Jack Frags and say, "What's New World like?" Because he's going to be like, "It's shit. I don't like this." He'll go to someone who plays MMOs and enjoys them. So that's how you
Someone asked Dr. Disrespect whether he'd ever play New World. And I don't have the exact quote, but he was like, "Why would I play a piece of shit like that?" Like, he's like, what am I getting out of that? Just pressing basics and buttons, like mashing them, and he was like, where's the skill in it? And he was just like, there's no challenge, it's not good content. Of course I'm not playing it. So to Piper's point, he's right. You don't go to him.
You don't come to me for multiplayer opinions. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
I mean, we're back round to why you're on episode 74, the landmark episode. Although actually, by now,
Yeah.
I've got a feeling it's going to be separated into two. So it's going to
It
be.
does feel that way. It
Well,
does. I was looking at the time thinking,
That's two.
unsurprisingly, overcooked it. Is he going to cut this up and try and cut the waffle, which is a lot of work, or is he just going to...
If I can get 2 weeks out of doing this, I'll take it. And nothing's going to happen between now and then. And Adkins can fill in if he needs to. It's a beautiful situation for everyone. But anyway,
win-win.
We did get through everything, although it took
double the time that it should.
And we had some good input from the chat, as we always do, and the comments in YouTube, iTunes. People are writing reviews in there now, apparently. And I've been told to say, put 5 stars only. Don't put anything else in. So, I mean, would you listen to a 3-star podcast? You'd be like, well, that's not good enough, because everything's like 4 3/4 nowadays. You go on Amazon and you go, write the review. It's always 4 3/4, and you're like, okay, I trust it.
It's got to be over 4.5 stars.
So that's
the minimum now, isn't it?
Don't put tut to us. Anyway, look, we'll be back next Monday, as long as it ain't fucking Christmas, because this might have taken up 6 months worth of fucking content. And well, nothing else for us to say. Patreon.com/dimpdigital if you want to tip us. If you're in the Twitch world, and you might think you're not involved in the Twitch world, but if you're watching that fella in the high castle, yeah, that means you've got Amazon Prime, correct? Krog?
Yep. Sorry, yep.
That means
didn't know if that was rhetorical or not.
If you have Amazon Prime, you can fund us for free by going to twitch.tv/dimpdigital, linking your Amazon Prime to either a newly made Twitch account or an existing Twitch account, and you can press subscribe for free, and we'll get a beer off of Asda. I looked the other day; it was $1.70 for a proper job.
It's not bad.
No, so I ordered 8, but I need more. Anyway, let's cull this shithouse. If you've listened, thank you. If you've watched, thank you. We'll see you next Monday on Idle Game Chat. Thanks for your time. Baby! And ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.